My castaway this week is a writer. She carries in her mind a unique and extraordinary world. She's the author of the Harry Potter books, J K Rowling, Joanne Rowling. J K, in case the boys didn't like reading what a woman had written, according to your publisher. Very sexist thought.
It was. I argued. And then what it came down to was I was so grateful to be published. They could have called me anything.
Well, quite.
They could have called me Graham if they'd wanted, really. I put up a token resistance, and then in the end I said, all right then.
It is a wonderful story, yours as well as Harry's. It must seem as magical as his. Do you still have to pinch yourself?
Yes. I feel that I've spent 3 years in a state of shock.
Yeah. What about your friends from the past? You know, they all come out of the woodwork at moments like this, don't they? But, I mean, are they amazed that it happened to you and not one of them, you know?
My closest long-term friends always knew that I wrote. So definitely if you'd said to them, which of you will end up a best-selling author, I think they would have still been very surprised about the best-selling bit, but they probably would have said, oh, Joe.
What about the getting of honorary degrees?
My old friends from Exeter found it quite hysterical that I was given an honorary degree.
Why?
There was a suggestion that rather than give me an honorary degree, they should put an engraved ashtray in the coffee bar. They thought that would be more appropriate.
How close to the truth is the image that's been put forward of you when you were writing these books? You know, we all have this image of the rather down at heel single mother pushing the buggy around Edinburgh, sitting in a cafe.
Because her flat was unheated.
Yeah, all that.
Well, it's like most newspaper stories, I think. It's about 50% true and 50% embroidery. It's true that I lived entirely on benefits for 9 months and mostly on benefits for about 18 months. It's true that I wrote in cafes with my daughter sleeping next to me. And that sounds very romantic, but of course it's not at all romantic when you're living through it. The embroidery comes where they say, well, her flat was unheated. I wasn't in search of warmth. I was just in search of good coffee, frankly, and not having to interrupt the flow by getting up and making myself more coffee. I did also meet an American journalist who said to me, so you wrote your first novel on napkins? And I laughed myself stupid. I said, no, I could afford paper.
When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care, and nothing is going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there. You've got a friend.
My first record is the Beatles Come Together. My parents were very young when they had me. They were both 20 and they had all the Beatles records. And so I grew up listening to them. Against very stiff competition, I've chosen Come Together.
Here come old flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got juju eyeball, he won holy roller. He got hair down to his knee. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please.
I've heard writers before, Joanne, say that stories come into their mind and demand to be written. Is that how it was with Harry?
Absolutely, it was, yes. I was 25 when I had the idea for Harry, and I had been writing, if you include all the teenage embarrassing rubbish, for years and years. And I had never been so excited by an idea in my life. I'd abandoned 2 novels for adults prior to that. Actually, the second novel I was still writing when I had the idea for Harry, and for 6 months I tried to write them both simultaneously, and then Harry just took over completely.
And you knew him the minute... I mean, did you know all about him the minute you came?
I knew that his parents had been killed. I knew he was a wizard, and he didn't know he was. It wasn't until I got off the train that I started going back and thinking, well, how can he not know? And what happened to his parents? And it took me 5 years to work out this very long plot.
And so you knew gradually, but quite quickly, his whole world. You knew he was going to go to wizard school,
on that
to
train,
Hogwarts.
yeah. What did I invent on that train? Lots of the characters you meet at the school. Dumbledore. I thought up lots of the ghosts. I imagined the moving staircases, and I started working out what they'd study. So loads and loads of detail, but not really the narrative.
And Hermione and Ron, the friends.
Hermione came before Ron.
And that Harry had he lived with this nasty aunt and uncle who...
Oh yes, I knew he lived with this.
They're wonderful, the Dursleys.
Yeah. I love them. I love them. They're such fun to write.
Do you have files as well? I mean, like they do here at Radio 4 on the Archers.
I really hope my PA and my friends are hearing you say that. They would laugh themselves hoarse at the idea of me being organised enough to have files. Really? What I've got is cardboard boxes full of unsorted notes. It's very organised in my head, and I think, I know what was going to happen here. I'll have to go and look in cardboard box number 3 because I know the notebook's in there, and I go and ferret.
Because I know Terry Pratchett in his Discworld, he gets caught out all the time, I think, talking to his readers on the internet.
I have, the worst one ever was children literally across continents have written and said, why hasn't Marcus Flint left the school? He was in the 5th year when Harry started, and he should have gone by book 4. And so I wrote back to them all and said, well, Marcus Flint's so stupid he had to do another year.
There's a bit of quick thinking.
Yeah, either that or I made a mistake, but I prefer answer A.
You've planned all 7 books, as we say, which take Harry through Hogwarts Wizard School to his coming of age at 18. How early on, then, did you conceive it as that kind of
from the beginning
7-year epic? You did?
From the train, I thought, no,
really?
This would be, yes. I thought I'd want to see him through school. And again, another journalist said to me, that's very arrogant to plan a 7...
It's presumptuous, I was
yes.
going to say it is.
And I said, but when you've got absolutely nothing, you can plan what you like. You can plan plan what you like. I mean, you can sit on a train and plan world domination if you want to. It might make you a very sad individual, but I wasn't telling anyone about it. It was just in my head.
Next record.
After the Beatles, my favourite band would have to be the Smiths. I just love them for the guitar. Johnny Marr's guitar. I play guitar extremely badly. I would love to be able to play like him. And for the lyrics, which are so witty.
Sweetness, I was only joking when I said I'd like to mash every tooth in your head. Oh, sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said by rights you should be bludgeoned in your bed. And now I know how Joan of Arc felt. Now I know how Joan of Arc felt. As the flames rose to her Roman nose and her Walkman started to melt.
Big Mouth Strikes Again, performed by the Smiths. Tell me about Joanne Rowling, the child. What was she like?
A real daydreamer, very vivid fantasy life, very freckly, squat, thick National Health glasses, bit of a know-it-all, underneath very nervous, very, very insecure.
It's been said that Hermione is a bit based on you. It sounds as if she is, actually.
She is. That was conscious, yeah.
Yes, quite bossy.
Yes, I was. My sister would very much vouch for that. My sister's 2 years younger than me, and I think she suffered on occasion.
Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one.
No.
Oh, are you doing magic? Let's see then.
Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow. Turn this stupid fat rat yellow.
Are you sure that's a real spell? Well, it's not very good, is it? Of course, I've only tried a few simple ones myself, but they've all worked for me. For example, Oculus Reparo. That's better, isn't it? Holy cricket! You're Harry Potter! I'm Hermione Granger. And you are?
Ron Weasley.
Pleasure. You two better change into your robes. I expect we'll be arriving soon. You've got dirt on your nose, by the way. Did you know? Just there.
But always reading.
Oh, yeah. Very, yeah.
What sort of
Constantly.
books?
Anything. Absolutely anything. Well, the great thing my parents did, nothing in the house was banned. So I read a lot of adult novels, young, but I also read Enid Blyton, and I read Barry Hines, and, Noel Streatfeild, and then pretty much anything else.
Did anyone in your family tell stories or write? Where's it, can you trace it back anywhere, this talent?
One of my grandfathers was a was a huge storyteller, but not in the sense of writing novels. He had a very rich fantasy life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Stanley. Stanley used to go
Stanley
out in
told
his...
porkies.
Oh, yes, but beautiful porkies. He used to go out in his shed and invent things.
But the other thing is a sense of family seems to be important to you. I mean, if Harry Potter's anything to go by, you know, he's this orphan, as we say, brought up by a horrid aunt and uncle who loves being invited to stay with his friend Ron, who's part of this huge family, the Weasleys, you know, very poor, but, you know, wonderfully
Very
together, very
close-knit,
happy.
yeah. I think there is an innate desire in every child to have a family. Harry goes out basically and makes his own family. I'm not sure. I think I possibly put some of my feelings about my mother's illness into Harry, in that sometimes home it was a difficult place to be because my mother was very ill. That's not to say we didn't all love each other very much. But when someone is very ill...
She had MS.
She had MS.
Sclerosis.
I do want to emphasise she did have a galloping form of it. Someone can have multiple sclerosis and have a normal lifespan and not be tremendously affected. My mother was unlucky and she died at 45. So,
and you were what then? You would have
I was
been
25.
mid-20s, yes.
Yeah. I started writing Harry 6 months before she died, so she never knew.
Record number 3.
There was no classical music in my parents' house. None. And I'm entirely self-educated on it. I go through these phases of self-improvement. And I had a major one in my early 20s and went out and bought all this classical music. This is Beethoven's Appassionata. When I was writing madly, I also went through a period when I was temping in offices. And to stop people talking to me, which sounds horrible, I used to put this piece of music on a tape, put in my earplugs and pretend that I was audio typing. Really, this is all my rich fantasy life coming out. I was sitting there pretending that I was playing this on a stage in a beautiful, beautiful sort of ball gown, pretending I was a pianist.
Wilhelm Kempf playing the end of the third movement of Beethoven's Piano Sonata in F minor, the Appassionata. My God, if you could type to that, you could type
That's
very
how my
fast.
typing speed got up so good.
Let me ask you about the language, because you did French and classics at Exeter, and obviously you have an enormous enjoyment of words for their own sake. A lot of spells like engorgio to make
Yes.
someone swell up or whatever. What about Dumbledore, the paternalistic headmaster? It's a wonderful name.
Dumbledore came straight out of Thomas Hardy. Dumbledore is used in The Mayor of Casterbridge as a dialect word meaning bumblebee. And I loved that word.
What about Parselmouth, which in
Parselmouth
Potter means speaking the language of snakes?
Is an old word, and I can't remember where I found that. Parselmouth used to mean, I think it was a cleft palate. So it was this slang word, now obsolete, for someone who had been born with a malformed mouth. It's as though subconsciously for years I had been preparing for writing Harry Potter, because I had just been storing weird words just as you would collect useless objects, really.
You had various jobs after university, from Amnesty International, secretarial jobs, as you say, teaching, and it was teaching English as a foreign language that took you to Portugal just after the death of your mother. Is that where Harry really took over then?
He was already fairly well established. I went over there with, in a corner of my suitcase, there was a pile of paper, some handwritten, some typed, and I would say it was about 6 inches deep. That was Philosopher's Stone as it then was. And when I came back, I had probably 3 times that amount.
But in the meantime, you got married.
Yes, and in the meantime, I met my ex-husband, we got married, and I had a baby. So it was an eventful little trip abroad.
So you were writing at the same time as
I was
being
writing all
pregnant,
through
you-
pregnancy and teaching, and
Lots
that
of
was...
procreation going on here.
It was a fertile summer. It was, yes.
Tell me about the next piece of music, because I think that knits in with it.
It does. This is Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto in D major. One of my favourite pieces of music, but also I associate it very, very, very strongly with that summer, with being pregnant, because I actually bought this for my ex-husband's birthday. And we played it daily, and I have told my daughter that this was probably the first piece of music she ever heard. She's totally unimpressed with that, doesn't like it at all. So it just has this very strong association with me writing and swelling and then becoming a mother.
Kyung-Hwa Chung playing part of the first movement of Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto in D major with the London Symphony Orchestra conducted by André Previn. So, Joanne Rowling, you gave birth to a novel and a daughter, and you called her Jessica. Perhaps you should have called her Hermione.
No, I couldn't be that cruel.
But why Jessica?
Because of Jessica Mitford. I first heard of Jessica Mitford from a great aunt of mine. And she started telling me this story about this girl who'd run away from home and had the audacity to charge a camera to her father's account before she did it. And she was telling me this clearly to make me think, goodness, how dreadful. But I thought, wow, how cool.
Jessica's, 7 now,
7,
isn't she?
yeah.
But when she was 5 months old, your marriage broke up and you came back to Britain. So it seems to me an awful lot happened to you, really, in the early 1990s, of course.
You could say that.
Well, and also your mother died then as well. And there are creatures in your third book called Dementors.
The Dementors.
Who
Yes.
leech the happiness out of people, really, don't they?
Yeah.
And obviously, again, when one reads it, one knows that you know about it. It's not sadness. It is
no.
absolutely
No.
hitting the bottom, isn't it?
There is a great difference between sadness, which is a healthy emotion, I think, and depression, which is more of an absence of emotion. That's how I remember it, and I did go through a period of depression. I think, as you say, a lot had happened to me. Not all of it bad, but all change is supposed to be very stressful, and I had been through bereavement. I'd had a baby, best thing that ever happened to me. But I'd stopped working, not a good thing, and suddenly I felt, how did I get here? This wasn't supposed to happen.
So Jessica would have been, I should think, about 3 when you put that first manuscript into the envelope and sent it off to the publisher, having done all that schlepping round the cafes and so on. Into the envelope it went, off it went.
Yeah. And back came a very prompt response saying, no, thank you. And then I got another rejection letter. The funny thing is, they didn't upset me because I had that back against the wall mentality. I've got to try now. By this time I was on this teaching course. I knew that I was going to have incredibly limited time to write. And I just thought, well, even if what you end up with is a file full of rejection letters, you know you tried.
So how long before somebody said, yes, please?
The first agent sent me a letter back saying, my client list is full. Literally. No, dear madam, and no, yours sincerely. And if I sound like I bear a grudge, I do, because I'd sent my manuscript in this beautiful plastic folder, and I was broke, and I didn't have £5 to spend on a plastic folder. And she sent it back without the folder, and she wrote, no thank you, and with a handwritten PS, the folder you sent would not fit in the envelope. And I just felt, well, buy bigger envelopes then. I was furious.
I wonder if she remembers.
I doubt it.
Kicking herself now. So finally, somebody said, yeah, it's Bloomsbury.
Yes, I got an agent first. I got Christopher Little first. And after a year of trying, Bloomsbury took me.
Can you remember the feeling in that moment?
The best. After the birth of Jessica, I really mean this, that was the best moment of my life.
And then the Americans started.
And then the American, yes, that was interesting. That was 4 or 5 months after the book came out in Britain. I'm at home one evening, and the phone rang, and it was Christopher, my agent, and he said there's an auction going on in America. For a split second, I truly thought, well, why are you telling me that? I didn't associate auction and my book. And then I realised what he meant. And I said, an auction? And he said, yes. And they're up to a certain amount of money. And the certain amount of money was double what he had predicted we would get. And then he phoned me up 2 hours later and said, OK, one of the publishers had dropped out. There are 2 in there. And they're up to this. And then finally, about 11 o'clock at night, he called me and said, OK, you're with Arthur Levine Books, and they're giving you, and it was a 6-figure sum in dollars.
What did that mean to you?
It was security, it meant we could get out of rented accommodation, but it also sent me into an absolute panic. Part of my brain saying, come on, you can buy a house, we don't have to worry anymore, everything's much better. And the other part of me was saying, oh my God, they're going to find me out, the next book won't be as good. I felt as though everyone was suddenly watching every word I wrote, and I was very frightened. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept walking round and round and round the flat.
But the point is, the pressure apart, that moment when you know you don't have to worry anymore after everything you've been through.
Yeah, I mean, I basically sat down and thought I can afford to write and maybe teach part-time. And that meant everything to me, you see, because prior to that moment, I kept thinking, is writing just your little self-indulgence? Do you have the right to keep your daughter poorer than maybe she should have been by continuing to make time for writing? Shouldn't you be out there working at anything and saying goodbye to the writing?
Record number 5.
Okay, this is Everybody Hurts by R.E.M. A very dear friend of mine bought me this album for Christmas, the Christmas after I'd left my ex-husband. And I played this song repeatedly, corny perhaps, but true. And it helped. And what I find remarkable about this song is the simplicity of the language. It's very difficult to write very simply about profound emotion. And Paul McCartney did it with Yesterday. Just this very simple, beautiful lyric. And I feel the same way about this record.
Day is long and the night is yours alone. When you're sure you've had enough of this life, hang on. Let yourself go. 'Cause everybody cries and everybody hurts sometimes. Sometimes everything is wrong. It's time to sing along. When your day is night, hold on, hold on. If you feel like letting go, if you think you've had too much of this life, well, hang on.
Everybody Hurts by R.E.M. It's interesting that in introducing that you mention Yesterday and all the simplicity of that as well, Everybody Hurts. I wonder if that isn't part of the secret behind the success of Harry Potter, that it is actually very simple. It does touch into an awful lot of things we know about. Orphan children, boarding school.
Well, there's a reason why the orphan is a recurring figure in children's literature. The children are instantly on that hero side or heroine side. You haven't got your mum and dad. But more than that, it's very liberating to be an orphan. You don't have to keep anyone happy. And I think even happy children love to be able to explore through a fictional orphan the possibilities of that situation.
You have some critics, not many, and they say, you know, that orphan thing and the boarding school thing and so on is a cliche. That's what they say. And I think one of them said Billy Bunter on broomsticks. And
that's a great line.
It is actually quite good.
I don't think it's accurate, but I do think it's a funny line.
But it is interesting to me that there are so many things that ring bells, and yet you are this phenomenal publishing success.
I'll tell
you, I wonder if
what sums it up for me, and I do think this is so funny. There are two groups of people who think I am wholeheartedly with them. One are people who believe passionately in the boarding school system, and the other group are practicing witches. I think rarely has anyone united those two groups. And I have to say I'm not on either of their sides. I didn't go to boarding school.
But in terms of fiction, it's great because everything can happen at night, and
exactly
that's what it's all about.
That is exactly what it's about. If you spend a minute looking at what I have to do to get Harry to the places he needs to be, it's apparent he really has to stay at school at night, and that's why it's a boarding school. And as for the practicing witches, I don't believe in magic in that sense. People come up to me for signing cues and whisper, "I'm trying the spells."
Do they really?
Yeah, it's happened, yeah.
Accio Fireball! Agumenti!
Alohomora!
Avada Kedavra.
Crucio! Expecto Patronum!
it has made you incredibly wealthy. How are you coping with that? I don't want to sound too sorry for you, but on the other hand,
I don't think you need to sound sorry for me.
From so very little to so very much, so quickly, from anonymity to public property, and I know you don't like that bit of it very much, but how are you coping with all of that?
People have said it's like winning the lottery, and in a sense it is, because it certainly was that unexpected. And yet I do know that I worked for it. I didn't work in the expectation of getting it, but there is a direct correlation between a lot of hard work and the money. Now, that's not to say that I deserve that amount of money. I think there's a neat link into the next song, but it can be difficult.
Okay, let's have this one. Yes, I see what you mean.
Marianne Faithfull. This is one from one of my favourite albums, which is Broken English. And this is Marianne Faithfull singing Guilt, an emotion I am not unfamiliar with, but I just love this song.
I feel guilt, I feel guilt, though I know I've done no wrong. I feel guilt, I feel guilt, I feel guilt, though I know I've done no wrong. I feel guilt. I feel bad, so bad, though I ain't done nothing wrong. I feel bad, I feel bad, so bad, though I ain't done nothing wrong. I feel bad. I never lied to my lover, but if I did, I would admit it. If I could get away with murder, I'd take my gun and I'd commit it. I never gave to the rich, I never stole from the poor. I'm like a curious child. Give me more, 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 more. I feel blood, though I feel it in my veins, it's not enough. I feel blood, I feel blood, though it's streaming.
Marianne Faithfull and Guilt. You've said that you will carry on writing, but this is the interesting bit, I think. I don't know if I would want to publish again.
Well, that was said at a very low ebb. I will be writing until I lose all my marbles, I know that. But there have been times when being published or being very much in the public eye has been not an enjoyable experience, shall we say.
That's why we get Rita Skeeter, the hackette from the Daily Prophet, who has a quick quills quote.
I love writing Rita.
She misquotes everybody.
In truth, for the first time ever, when I raised my pen metaphorically to introduce Rita, I thought, whoa, wait a moment, they'll think this is your response. But in fact it wasn't. Rita wasn't called Rita back then. She was actually called Bridget. And she was cut from Philosopher's Stone. I cut her. And originally, when Harry first walked into the leaky cauldron, I had Rita rushing towards him and trying to get an interview. But I cut her because by the time I came to do my final draft of Philosopher's Stone, I really had planned all 7 books, and I thought, no, the right moment for her to arrive is bang centre in book 4, when the weight of Harry's fame really starts to oppress him. And then look what happened to me in the interim. So I pick up my pen.
Fame became oppressive.
And I went to introduce Rita, and I thought, everyone's going to say, and then I thought, well, you know what, if you second guess them all the time, then you're lost. So just bung her in and enjoy her, and I won't lie, I probably enjoyed writing her much more.
I'm Rita Skeeter. I write for the Daily Prophet. But of course you know that, don't you? It's you we don't know. You're the juicy news. What quirks lurk beneath those rosy cheeks? What mysteries do the muscles mask? Does courage lie beneath those curls? In short, what makes a champion tick? Me, myself, and I want to know. Not to mention my rabid readers. So, who's feeling up to sharing? Should we start with the youngest? Lovely. This is cosy.
It's a broom cupboard.
You should feel right at home then.
What might you write then after you've finished Harry? Might you write something completely different?
I might do.
Adult?
I might do. It really depends what the next great idea I have is.
Yes, you wait.
Great idea in the sense
to
of
visit you, pop
exactly
in.
what's going to come next.
What about life other than writing? I mean, having achieved your biggest ambition, which was to be a published writer, done that, 35 years old. What else? You've got one daughter. What about those big happy families you find so attractive?
Would I like to have more children? Yes, I'd love to have more children. But if it doesn't happen, I don't think anyone could look at me and say, what a shame.
But does it, being so famous, make it difficult to find personal relationships?
I think it can have a distorting effect on your relationships. I was intrigued by the comment of a friend of mine. I've known her for about 2 years now, and when she first met me, she didn't have a clue about Harry Potter. And we got friendly, as you do, on the school run. And I had told her I was a children's writer, but she, sort of said, oh, really? And then one day I met her in the playground and she was quite different. And she'd realised. And she said to me, if I'd known, I don't think I'd even have spoken to you. And she said, well, because I would have thought that you would have thought that I only wanted to speak to you, which was absolute nonsense because her son and my daughter are best friends, so I wouldn't have thought that at all.
How does Jessica cope with it all? I mean, she's obviously aware, 7 years old, goes to school.
I think in one sense the blessing is that she was too young when it started to really notice a difference. She's kind of grown up with this as the norm.
Sure, but it's how the other kids
Yeah, absolutely.
speak to her.
The first big shock was getting to school and finding herself surrounded by 12-year-olds saying, does your mum really write Harry Potter? But she's a feisty little thing, my daughter.
You see me and I see you. Can't hide nothing cause it's all see-through. Don't be fool enough to tell a lie. Satellites watching up in the sky. There for all the world to know what we do and where we go. Welcome to the fishbowl. You don't have to be famous now to be a star. Just get caught on video and there you are. You just lost your privacy. Now you're swimming around in here with me. And everybody else we know, it's all a big freak show. Welcome to the fishbowl.
But do you get children coming to the house, perhaps looking for a secret manuscript? I mean, there was so much hype before you published the latest
that was,
one.
I never want to live through that sort of tension again. Older children have come round to the house and made big jokes about going into my study and finding it. And I stopped finding it quite so funny after a while, and it's now in a very safe place.
Record number 7.
Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking, what do you really want on a desert island? And I wanted one really good, loud one. Jimi Hendrix with All Along the Watchtower.
There must be some kind of way out of here, said a joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessman there, drink my wine. Plowman, dig my earth. None will level
Jimi Hendrix Experience and All Along the Watchtower. So it's nice and noisy from time to time on your desert island. What
I love
else
a bit
is
of
it
Jimi
like
Hendrix.
there?
I think I'd enjoy it for a little bit. I'd really love it. Not having anyone around and people trying to contact me all the time would be a problem of the past. And then after, give me a week maximum and I would start to desperately miss people.
And you could hack it generally. You could kind of get life together and find something to eat.
Could I? I'm not a practical person at all. But I do think I have a fairly strong will to survive, so that probably would see me through. I'd probably be rescued 3 years later, very skinny and not terribly healthy, but I probably still would be there.
Last record.
This is probably my favourite piece of music in the world on its own merits, and this is Mozart's Requiem in D minor.
The Vienna Singverein performing the Agnus Dei from Mozart's Requiem in D minor with the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra conducted by Herbert von Karajan. If you could only take one of those records, Joanne, which one would you take?
It's going to have to be the Tchaikovsky, just because it's got this very strong association with my daughter.
And your fertile period.
My very fertile period, yes.
What about your book as well as the Bible and Shakespeare?
Well, this caused me an awful lot of difficulty, but finally I decided that as for my luxury, I'd like unlimited paper and a pen, please, that I will be writing stories to read. And you have given me Shakespeare and the Bible. And literature is great, but I really do want to live, so I've asked for the SAS Survival Guide, please.
J K Rowling, thank you very much indeed for letting us hear your desert island is.
Thank you.